Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Are we live already?
Let me just introduce people that you already know. To my right is the Deputy Chief Justice, and to the left is the President of the Supreme Court of Appeal, President Mpati. And next to the Deputy Chief Justice is the Acting Deputy President of the Supreme Court of Appeal. And there are other JPs that here that you know, JP Sope, JP Khomum, Lambo, there are many. But I particularly want to welcome in a special way the two brand new JPs, the Judge President of the KwaZulu-Natal Division of the High Court, Judge President Japi, and the Judge President of the Limpopo Division of the High Court, Judge President Makoba. And I will now proceed to read the statement that we have prepared. Before I read it, let me just say that we have had an extraordinary heads of courts meeting, which included the deputies and other senior judges from almost all courts. The only heads of courts we do not have here are Judge President Dennis Davis, who is abroad, as well as Acting Judge President Mie of the Land Claims Court. I read the statement. A judge's principal article of faith is to adjudicate without fear, favor, or prejudice. When each judge assumes office, she or he takes an oath or affirmation in the following terms: to be faithful to the Republic of South Africa, to uphold and protect the Constitution and the human rights entrenched in it, to administer justice to all persons alike without fear, favor, or prejudice, and in accordance with the Constitution and the law. To judges, this obligation and the oath are sacred. Our Constitution, like others of its kind, sets out the powers of each arm of state. No arm of state is entitled to intrude upon the domain of the other. However, the Constitution requires the judiciary ultimately to determine the limits and regulate the exercise of public power. Judges, like others, should be susceptible to constructive criticism. However, in this regard, the criticism should be fair and in good faith. Importantly, the criticism should be specific and clear. General, gratuitous criticism is unacceptable. In the adjudication process, judges do not act as a collective with a collective mindset. Each judge is informed by constitutional values, her or his conscience, and brings to bear an individual judgment. Of course, judges, like other mortals, err. There are several levels of courts that serve as a corrective purpose, that serve a corrective purpose when judges make a mistake. That explains why the Constitution provides for an appeal mechanism. Moreover, judgments are often subjected to intensive peer and academic scrutiny and criticism. There have been suggestions that in certain cases judges have been prompted by others to arrive at a predetermined result. This is a notion that we reject. However, in a case in which a judge does overstep, the general public, litigants, or other aggrieved or interested parties should refer the matter to the Judicial Conduct Committee of the Judicial Service Commission. The rule of law is the cornerstone of our constitutional democracy. In simple terms, it means everybody, whatever her or his status, is subject to and bound by the Constitution and the law. As a nation, we ignore it at our peril. Also, the rule of law dictates that court orders should be obeyed. Our experience, by and large, is that court orders have been honored by other arms of state. The few instances of where court orders have not been complied with, whatever the reasons, have the effect of undermining the rule of law. The heads of court and senior judges of all divisions have requested the Chief Justice as head of the judiciary to meet with the head of state to point out and discuss the dangers of the repeated and unfounded criticism of the judiciary. Criticism of that kind has the potential to delegitimize the courts. Courts serve a public purpose and should not be undermined. That is the end of the statement. It will be made available to the public and the media. Nati, I think, will facilitate questions.
Okay, good afternoon, gentlemen and ladies. We are at the question and answer session. You will then pose your questions. We'll take three. First round, you will pose a question to whoever you want to pose the question to, and you will indicate to the house that you are representing. If there are questions, carry on. I can't see anybody else.
Just a question for both Chief Justice Mogoeng and Deputy Chief Justice Moseneke. You haven't specifically referred to ANC Secretary General Gwede Mantashe's comments in the wake of the al-Bashir decision, but he effectively, in a very senior public political position, said that certain divisions, and he specifically named North Gauteng and the Western Cape High Court, were bent on causing chaos in governance was the phrase he used, and essentially suggested that there was some kind of malevolent agenda within certain factions of the judiciary. Is that the attack of which you speak? And how do you respond to that attack from someone who is a respected senior political leader and must obviously be aware of the kind of impact that his words will have? Thank you.
May I take another question from Stephen Crotis before the justices respond?
Good afternoon, Stephen Crotis, Eyewitness News. Good afternoon, Chief Justice and other judges. I don't think I've ever seen so many in one room. May I ask, it was the Police Minister, Nathi Nhleko, who was accused of saying that a judge in a case had been prompted to come to a predetermined outcome. He said that some judges had basically been bribed. Is that what you are responding to when you, Chief Justice, say that there have been suggestions judges have been prompted to arrive at predetermined outcomes? Are you responding to those comments that have been alleged to have said by the Police Minister? Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Justice.
I just want to make it very clear that we're not responding to anybody. You would be aware that quite a number of people have leveled criticism against the judiciary. Our responsibility is simply to reassure the nation and the global community, to the extent that they might be interested in the developments in this country, that the judiciary remains committed to carrying out its constitutional mandate in line with their oath of office. And to the extent that in the process of giving that reassurance, certain issues are dealt with, it is not so as to target a particular comment, but just to make a broad statement in principle, articulating our position. So to cut the long story short, our intention is not to individualize our response to the situation in this country insofar as it affects the judiciary, but to restate the principle, and that is all. We will not, now and in the future, whenever somebody makes a statement, go blow by blow with any personality, however highly placed he or she might be.
I don't know if you want to say anything.
Okay, any other question? I note 1, 2. Please identify yourself and be the house that you represent.
Oh. You asked about the courts. As I said, it's very clear. The Western Cape is a division of the High Court is located at the seat of Parliament. And whenever there are decisions or rules of Parliament to be challenged, location would invariably dictate where the application is to be lodged. And that would explain why most of the time decisions taken by Parliament or the rules of Parliament or incidents affecting Parliament would be challenged in that court. On the other hand, Pretoria is the seat of the executive. And North Gauteng Division of the High Court, as you know, is in Pretoria. And it therefore has the jurisdiction to entertain challenges to the decisions taken by the executive. And that would explain why most of the time it is these courts, more than all other high courts, that entertain these decisions, and in the course of that sometimes find in favor of and sometimes find against the affected arms of the state.
Thank you, Chief Justice. I had noted you at the back, and yourself.
I'm Paulie van Wyk from Media 24. I wanted to ask, you gave us, you told or said that there are some examples discussed of decisions of courts that have not been obeyed, albeit that there are a few. Can you give us examples, please, Chief Justice?
Okay.
Afternoon, Chief Justice and Justices. My name is Franny Rabkin. I'm from Business Day newspaper. My question is, you said that you would be meeting with the head of state. My question is, what do you hope to achieve from that meeting? What would the best outcome be? Especially given that some of the the criticisms that we know in the media seem to come not from the executive per se, but from political organizations and parties.
Thank you. Chief Justice.
I think it will not take a rigorous exercise to determine which court orders have not been obeyed. You know of some, and I think I received a media inquiry during the course of last week from Rapport about some of the decisions where government functionaries have, for whatever reason, not obeyed government orders. So I don't want to particularize court decisions that have not been obeyed, but I think it will be far too easy for you just to get in touch with the registrar, and they should be able to provide you with a list. As for what we hope to achieve by meeting with the heads of state, having regard to the fact that it is politicians who are not necessarily involved in government who have made statements, I think this is our response. The president is not just the president of the country, but also the president of the ANC. And as I understand it, the ANC is a critical component of the tripartite alliance. And to the extent that some of those statements might have been made or are attributed to role players in those formations that are part and parcel of the alliance, he is best placed to find a way in which issues might be raised at that level. But there is another factor. It is a choice thing. We can't pretend that nothing has been said, because something has been said. And one of the healthiest approaches to challenges that judges must and will always adopt is, so far as practicable, to seek to address issues behind the door, behind closed doors. Raise those issues with the powers that be and leave them to deal with the issues the best way they know how. Let me give you an example. Some time back, some years back, I don't remember whether it's 7 or 8 years back, I wouldn't remember off the cuff. I was part of this forum in my capacity as judge president, and tensions were running high between the executive and the judiciary. We had a meeting at that stage with the Minister of Justice to resolve the misunderstandings that existed, and they were amicably resolved. We, of course, had an option to debate the issues or raise the issues with the Minister of Justice, even in this instance. But the personalities to whom statements have been attributed do not function within his realm or sphere of influence. Some of them are arguably senior to him, politically speaking. So it's only proper that we raise the issues with the President, because he's best placed, in our view, to debate those issues, raise those issues with the role players affected.
Thank you, Chief Justice. I've noted you, Karabo. Any other question from the rest? Okay, Karabo.
Good afternoon, Chief Justice. If I may ask, what will it's Karabo Mwepe from Jacaranda FM. What steps or action will the judiciary take if government continues not to obey court orders?
You see, I think one of the most important things we have done right now was to reiterate the critical role that the observance of the rule of law plays in a constitutional democracy. We've reiterated that point. We are making it public. 2, the concern inherent in your statement must be coupled with the reality that it is but only some and few court orders that have not been honored by the government or government functionaries. And because we are only aware of one eyebrow-raising apparent disregard, and I've got to say apparent because the matter might still come before the Constitutional Court, apparent disregard for a court order, we believe that this meeting, this engagement with you, and the concerns that have been raised are strong enough to discourage anybody who might have been inclined to disregard court orders to think twice. But if it were to happen that court orders are disobeyed going forward, we will cross that bridge when we get to it. It's difficult to anticipate. We don't see that coming because we have confidence in what we are doing today, in our articulation of the positions that senior government officials and other people must be alive to going forward, we are confident that they will deter any person who might otherwise have been inclined to disregard court orders. So we'll deal with that issue when we get to it.
Thank you, Justice. Are there any questions, ladies and gentlemen? Here's a follow-up question from Karen Mon.
Just finally, Chief Justice, the fact that you've had this extraordinary briefing and the fact that you've publicly made the utterances that you have must surely indicate a level of concern on the part of the judiciary. This is the first time in democratic history that we've had judges in your position come out and make these kind of statements, ask for a meeting with the president, take the steps that you are taking. Do you believe that this is a moment of crisis between government and the judiciary? And what are you ultimately hoping the president will say publicly about government's relationship with the judiciary? Are you hoping that he will make public utterances about this government's respect for the judiciary and the rule of law?
Thank you so much. I don't think it's a moment of crisis. I think it is a moment of deep reflection. It's a moment for a brutal self-introspection, a brutal institutional introspection. I will not try to anticipate what the president's response to our engagement is going to be, but I'm confident that he will reflect on what is happening now. Is going to reflect, I believe, on the statement, the media statement that we are about to circulate on this engagement, and more importantly, reflect better with the benefit of an engagement which will afford him the opportunity to put questions to us and for us to clarify our position and deal with that engagement with the seriousness that the situation dictates it deserves. So he may go public, he may not go public, but I'm certain of one thing. He'll reflect and reflect seriously on our viewpoint in relation to this challenge.
I just want to add one more consideration. I think it's important for the purpose of this meeting to be understood. It is also meant to talk to the broad public of our country, as the Chief Justice had indicated earlier, to reassure them that none of our judges has acted improperly in relation to their oath of office. And more importantly, that they would continue to subscribe to the principles which are set out in the statement. I think it's just that moment in our history where it's important to reassure all at large, and the Chief Justice was quite right to refer also to the international community, at our own home ground. We are judges. We take seriously our oath of office and will continue to act impartially, as we have always done. And we would want that our people out there should know it. That is our calling. We take it seriously and will act honestly and fairly in all matters at all times. That is much more important than many other things, is talking to the populace and reassuring them of our role and that we remain on our posts and we will do our work as we have to do it.
Maybe just to say as well, you would have realized that we started with our affirmation or oath of office. which entails our allegiance to the Republic, but also having to go about our constitutional business without fear. Why fear? We raise it up front to reassure the nation that in case they think that the judiciary might have been negatively affected in one way or the other by the criticism leveled against them, there is no fear. There is no need to be concerned. Without favor, we will not be favorably disposed to any person, any institution in carrying out our constitutional mandate without prejudice, even if you have criticized us before, however severely, you will enjoy proper justice when you come before us. You're not going to be harboring grudges because the Constitution enjoins us to carry out our responsibilities without factoring into the decision-making process things that ought not to influence us in arriving at our decisions.
Thank you, Justices. Colleagues, any more questions from anyone? Okay, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I see there's another one.
They didn't ask you. No, they didn't ask you. Fortunately, they said nothing. They didn't ask you.
Why is it Mr. Langanakere tell you another person that anything?
Yeah, that was important. And you know what
Person says anything here.
it was necessary that
allow the justices to reflect on this.
Natia, are they live? Are the microphones live?
They're still live.
Please,
I just wanted them to remove them.
There is no such thing as off the record.
Natia comes running with you.
no, thank you, my friend.
Thank you, colleagues. May I just colleagues, advocates here from Advocates for Transformation, EMA, and the Law Society of South Africa. If you guys would like to talk to them, they are available. You can interview them. It's Richard Scott who's here, Justice Mogoeng is here, and Advocate Dikgang is here. So the lady Barbara here will facilitate
Both cables. Anyone? This one.